Good evening, and welcome to the virtual study public hearing for the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study. My name is Nina Ulrich, a member of VDOT Hampton Roads District Communications Team and the moderator for tonight's session. We are glad you joined us to learn about this important study in parts of Chesapeake, Suffolk, and Portsmouth. First and foremost, we want to point out that while we have hosted virtual public meetings over this past year, each virtual meeting can present its own challenges, so we want to thank you in advance for everyone's patience this evening. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the project website as a YouTube link in its entirety. We'll start tonight's meeting with an introduction of the study team, followed by a video presentation, and we'll conclude after the question and answer period. This project is fully funded by HRTAC, the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission. HRTAC funds the highest priority projects from the Hampton Roads Transportation Funds that provides new capacity for congestion relief. HRTPO, the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization, reviews and forecasts conditions and plans and prioritizes for future improvements to transportation across Hampton Roads. At this time, I would like to offer an opportunity for Pavitra Pardasari with HRTPO to share a few words. Pavitra?
Hi, Nina. Can you hear me?
Excellent. Thank you.
Perfect. Good evening. Thank you, Nina, for having us on this call. I'm Pavitra Parthasarathy with the Hampton Roads TPO. And as Nina said, our role is to evaluate, plan, forecast, and prioritize projects. And the Bowers Hill Interchange, including the I-664 widening to College Drive, is a regional priority. And this is a project that we've been engaged on from the beginning, and we will continue to work with VDOT, HRTAC, and our locality stakeholders as this project advances. I'm just going to pause here, and then if anyone has any follow-up questions or comments, I'll be around and can answer them as they come in, Nina. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Pavitra. Also with me this evening is Andrew Pike, VDOT's project manager for this project. We also have other members of our project team, in addition to VDOT representatives from various areas online this evening to help answer any questions during the session, including Andrew, Jim Ponicello with Air and Noise, Mary Snyder with Right of Way, myself with Communications, Queen Crittenden with Civil Rights, Ross with Noise, and Samba Seca, who is our Senior Design Project Manager here in Hampton Roads. It takes many experts across different disciplines to plan for and complete any VDOT project, and we thank everyone for your work on this project thus far and for joining us this evening. I would like to take a moment now to explain why and how VDOT conducts a public hearing. A public hearing has 4 essential purposes. First, to inform the public on the status of the planning of the study, to share their recommendations based on current information. Second, to describe the study so that those attending can determine if the project will affect their lives and property. Third, to provide the public an opportunity to see information and express their views at this stage in the planning process when flexibility to respond to comments exists. And last, this hearing is also being used to develop a record of public views and participation to accompany recommendations for subsequent decisions. This virtual public hearing is being held in compliance with state laws, is being recorded, and the recorded version of this hearing will be made available for the official public records. Tonight, you will see all of the information that we would typically present during an in-person meeting, including project information, estimated costs, the process for submitting comments, and key contacts are online this evening. We'd also like to remind you that we will be having the in-person public hearing for the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study tomorrow evening, Wednesday, April 27th, in an open house format, opening at 5 p.m. and closing at 7 p.m. here at the VDOT District on Burbage Drive in Suffolk. For this evening, if you for some reason get accidentally disconnected, please attempt to rejoin this meeting the same way you first joined. We are going to play a Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study presentation that's approximately 13 minutes long. During this time, all participants will remain on mute, but are strongly encouraged to submit questions in the Q&A box. For those that are online, the chat box has been disabled, and please use the Q&A box so we can properly track and answer your questions. For those joining us on the phone this evening, welcome. If you wish to speak, we need you to press *3 on your phone. You will hear an automated message from WebEx. Give it about 2 seconds, and then we'll be able to hear your questions. Again, you can submit those questions using those methods, also online via our online survey, and directly there in the email. If you please give me 30 seconds now, I'm going to pause my screen and pull up the video. Following that video, we will have the direct question and answer period with the project team.
To the public hearing for the recommended preferred alternative for the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study. As a reminder from previous presentations and study materials, the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study covers the junction of I-664, I-64, I-264, U.S. Route 13, U.S. Route 58, U.S. Route 460, and Virginia Route 191 Jolliffe Road, as well as 7 miles of I-664 to near College Drive, Exit 8A. You can view previous presentations and materials on the study website at www.bowershillinterchange.com. Hard copy versions of these materials have been and will remain available upon request. VDOT has developed this presentation to provide information and gather public comment on the recommendation for a preferred alternative. This presentation will first provide an overview of the study and the study process. Then the purpose and need for the study and the alternatives that have been considered will be described. Next, VDOT's recommendation for a preferred alternative will be explained. Finally, VDOT will share ways the public can provide input on the recommended preferred alternative to inform agency coordination and Commonwealth Transportation Board action and share the next steps for the study. In April 2019, the Federal Highway Administration, or FHWA, issued the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study Environmental Assessment, or EA, which evaluated improvements at the Bowers Hill Interchange. In May 2020, the study area was expanded to incorporate an additional 7 miles north along I-664 to near the College Drive interchange in Suffolk. Based on this change, this new study was initiated in the form of an Environmental Impact Statement, EIS. In fall and winter 2020, VDOT conducted early planning activities. These activities included agency and public outreach, field investigations, and preliminary concept development. The purpose and need sets the goal for the study and serves as the primary criteria in the alternative screening process. The development of the purpose and need for the study was informed by nearly 1,300 responses to a public survey conducted in September and October 2020. In December 2020, the agencies involved in the study concurred on the purpose and need. In February through March 2021, VDOT held a citizen comment opportunity to present the preliminary range of alternative concepts that have been developed based on the purpose and need. Public comments obtained during that review led the agencies involved in the study to concur to the range of alternatives to be considered and advanced in the EIS document. Today's presentation will cover where we are currently, which is the identification of VDOT's recommended preferred alternative. Later, we will review the next steps in the study. The alternatives were evaluated on how well they address the study's purpose and need, which is to reduce congestion, improve travel reliability, and provide additional travel choice within the study area. The purpose and need statement was agreed upon by VDOT, the Federal Highway Administration, United States Army Corps of Engineers, and the United States Environmental Protection Agency in December 2020 following the mentioned online public survey. Preliminary concepts were considered and were first presented during the citizen comment opportunity in February through March 2021. As a recap, no-build concept. The no-build concept was retained as a point of comparison for the alternatives moving forward as required for an EIS study. Concepts A1, A2, and concepts B1, B2. The general purpose lane improvements in concepts A1 and A2 and concepts B1 and B2 would not provide additional travel choice and therefore would not meet all the elements of the purpose and need. Therefore, these options were not retained for further evaluation in the EIS. These concepts also include addressing the Bowers Hill interchange and consideration of improvements to other interchanges within the study area. Concepts C and D. The managed lanes improvements would reduce congestion, provide improvement to travel reliability, and provide additional travel choice, meeting all elements of the purpose and need. Both were retained for further evaluation in the EIS. The term managed lanes refers to lanes that may have dedicated or restricted uses. For example, a high occupancy vehicle or HOV lane is a lane that requires 2 or 3 people to be in each car traveling in the given lane. An express lane is a lane that requires either HOV participation or for a single occupancy vehicle to pay a toll to use the given lane. The express lanes are being implemented throughout much of Hampton Roads as part of the Hampton Roads Express Lane Network. These concepts also include addressing the Bowers Hill interchange and consideration of implementations to other interchanges within the study area. Concept E, collector distributor or CD lanes, which are lanes specifically designed to handle entering and exiting traffic along a highway, would not address congestion on the entire I-664 mainline study area or provide additional travel choice. So it was determined that CD lanes, as standalone improvements, would not meet the purpose and need and were therefore not retained for further evaluation. CD lanes could still be considered at select interchanges as part of the final design of a preferred alternative. Concept F, Transportation Systems Management, Transportation Demand Management, or TSM, TDM improvements would not address congestion on the entire I-664 mainline or provide reliable additional travel choice on their own. Therefore, standalone TSM, TDM improvements would not meet the purpose and need and were not retained for further evaluation. Such improvements could, however, be implemented as separate projects in the future. As a reminder from previous presentations, the purpose of these improvements would be to maximize the efficiency of the current transportation system or reduce the demand for travel on the system through the implementation of low-cost improvements. The following recommendations derived from the I-664 Corridor Improvement Study. Extend the acceleration lane at northbound I-664 exit 13, which is the loop from Military Highway. Add new bus route 970 from downtown Portsmouth to downtown Newport News and the Newport News Shipbuilding that would run 4 trips per peak period. More information on these improvements can be found on the I-664 Corridor Improvement Study website, which is www.i-64-664publicinfo.com. Concept G. Transit-only improvements were not retained for further evaluation as they do not address congestion on the I-664 mainline, nor do they improve travel reliability, so they would not meet the purpose and need and were therefore not retained for further evaluation. However, enhanced transit is not precluded from the corridor under a preferred alternative documented in the EIS or as an independent project. Such improvements could, however, be implemented as separate projects in the future. VDOT, Federal Highway Administration, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency agreed that the no-build and to-build alternatives, alternatives C and D, should be carried forward for analysis in the EIS, following the public comment period during the February through March 2021 citizen comment opportunity. Alternative C includes the addition of 1 managed lane and 1 part-time drivable shoulder as part of the managed lane system in each direction. A part-time drivable shoulder converts the paved shoulders to drivable lanes during certain times of the day as a congestion relief strategy. Alternative D includes the addition of 2 managed lanes in each direction of I-664. Alternatives C and D were carried forward for detailed analysis because they met the study's purpose and need. A planning level limit of disturbance or footprint was established for the alternatives carried forward based on preliminary engineering to assess a worst-case scenario for impacts. An impact analysis was conducted to assess where the proposed improvements may affect surrounding properties and resources like wetlands. Following an FHWA NEPA decision, VDOT would be able to advance with more detailed design phases. During these detailed phases of design, which would include permitting, appropriate engineering could be completed to avoid impacts to resources and private properties to the greatest extent practicable. It is important to note that the impacts shown are a worst-case scenario and will be revisited and refined during final design and permitting. VDOT's recommended preferred alternative is Alternative C, the addition of one managed lane and one part-time drivable shoulder in each direction of I-664. This alternative and the impact estimates presented on the previous slide also includes addressing the Bowers Hill interchange and potentially the interchanges that occur along the I-664 study area. Illustrative planning level designs have been developed as part of the EIS to support the impact and cost estimates. The means by which these interchanges would be improved are to be determined during more detailed phases of design. VDOT plans to recommend Alternative C as the preferred alternative for the following reasons. It best meets the purpose and need while balancing costs and impacts. The addition of one managed lane and one part-time drivable shoulder is consistent with the improvements underway for the Hampton Roads Express Lanes, HREL, which allow for buses to operate in the express lanes. Following public review of VDOT's recommendation of Alternative C as the preferred alternative, the Commonwealth Transportation Board will review and act to formally identify the preferred alternative, which will then be documented in the Draft Environmental Impact Statement, or DEIS. The Hampton Roads Express Lanes is a network consisting of multiple segments of express lanes and will provide safe and reliable travel options while helping to relieve congestion in the region, expanding along I-64 from Bowers Hill and Chesapeake to 1.2 miles west of Denby Boulevard in Newport News. The network is expected to be completed in late winter 2025. The Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study is only in the study phase and is not part of HREL. After this hearing, VDOT will review public comments received and finalize the study documentation. Once the Commonwealth Transportation Board has formally identified the preferred alternative, FHWA will publish the draft EIS, which is anticipated to be available for public review in late summer 2022. The issuance of the draft EIS will be accompanied by another opportunity for the public to comment and attend a hearing similar to this one. Sign up on the study website at vdotmeeting.com/Bowers Hill or contact VDOT to receive notifications on the issuance of the draft EIS and future public hearings. Following the review of the draft EIS, VDOT and the FHWA will respond to substantive comments received from the public and the agencies involved in the study, refine any necessary analysis, and document these efforts in a final EIS. FHWA will issue the final EIS with a record of decision. These documents will be made available to the public and will indicate that the study phase is complete. If you would like to provide comments on VDOT's preferred alternative or on the study in general, you can provide your comments on the study's website at vdotmeeting.com/Bowers Hill. Mail your comments to Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study at 11827 Cannon Boulevard, Suite 402, Newport News, Virginia, 23606, or email your comments to bowershill@vdot.virginia.gov using the subject line Bowers Hill Interchange. Stay updated on the study progress by visiting the study website at bowershillinterchange.com and by signing up for the monthly newsletter. Future public comment opportunities will be shared on the study website and through our e-newsletter. Thank you for your interest in this important study.
Thank you for watching that video. 1 second, please. My apologies, and there's one of those technical difficulties that we're still trying to get used to as we're on WebEx with a storm coming. Thank you all for your participation in watching that video. I wanted to let you know that at this time we are going to open the Q&A. We do have a Q&A box on the web browser to enter your questions and comments. For those that are joining us on the phone, you can dial *3 hear a message from WebEx, and then you can be able to share your questions. For those that dialed in on a phone, I'll identify your phone questions by the last 2 digits of your phone number. As a reminder, please make sure your message is relevant to this project, and please be polite, as all questions will be read aloud and are included in the official public hearing transcript. Any individual who does not abide by the ground rules or submits anything inappropriate will be asked to leave or manually disconnected from the meeting. If you choose not to answer your questions this evening, as you heard on the video, we certainly welcome your questions and comments through May 7th, and you can do that online this evening, via phone, on the ways that you see here on the screen, or in person tomorrow evening. At this time, I do see that we have a question from, one second, please, and we're taking these in order, from Phil. Will a copy of this presentation be made available at a later date? And Phil, that answer is yes. If it's not posted this evening, then it will be posted tomorrow. We have a question from Sean. And Andrew, this is for you. Sean asks, will the design include sound barrier walls near the bridge at Jolliffe Road dock landing exits?
Sure. Nina, can you hear me?
I can hear you great, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sean, for the question. Yeah, so the environmental review process, the NEPA study that we're conducting right now, will include a preliminary noise analysis. And that preliminary noise analysis will determine whether noise barriers are feasible and reasonable in locations along the I-664 corridor, including the Bowers Hill Interchange. The results of that preliminary noise analysis will be made public with the release of the draft environmental impact statement, and that's something we expect to be released this fall. So at that time, you would be able to see preliminary results. Those results would be revisited in the future as part of a final design, and that final noise analysis would determine whether noise barriers are feasible and reasonable in locations along the corridor.
Excellent, thank you, Andrew. We have another question. This one is from Thomas. His first question, Andrew, is, of the worst case scenarios, there are about 103 acres that may be impacted. Is there a breakdown between tidal and non-tidal? That's his first question. And his second question is, when could we reasonably expect to be driving on the new improvements?
Sure, good question. So with respect to the potential wetland impacts, the different types, different categories, like you mentioned, tidal and non-tidal wetland impacts, will be documented in a natural resources technical report, and also documented in Chapter 3 of the draft environmental impact statement. So that information will be made public this fall. And then the second question, that's getting into construction and when a facility and improvements might be open to the traveling public. So the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization's long-range transportation plan currently has the Bowers Hill Interchange and the I-664 improvements slated to open in a 2038 to 2045 timeframe. And the permitting piece that's been included in the notice of intent indicates that permits would not be received, applications submitted until 2035.
Excellent, thank you, Andrew. Our next question is from Edward. Edward asks, where will vehicles that need breakdown assistance be moved to safely?
Sure, thank you, Edward. Yeah, so the existing I-664 corridor has shoulders. The proposed improvements will retain a shoulder, so there'll still be the opportunity to move vehicles over in the future in the event of breakdowns, as you mentioned.
Excellent, thank you, Andrew. We have another question here, one second, from Becky. Becky wants to say thank you for hosting this virtual hearing, and her question is, what time of day will the work occur?
Right now, do not have that type of information available. Right now, we're in the environmental review process, the NEPA process. Construction would not begin for a number of years into the future. We have a few more steps to go through following the NEPA process. So I can't speak to exactly when construction may occur.
Thank you, Andrew. We have a question from Travis, and Travis asks, can you please explain what improvements to the Bowers Hill interchange itself are proposed as part of Alternative C? I did not see that information presented, and it is important concerning impacts. The previous environmental assessment showed a wide range of impacts at the interchange based on the improvements assessed.
Right, thank you, Travis. Yeah, so what you referenced, the previous environmental assessment that was conducted for the Bowers Hill interchange itself did include more details with respect to potential improvements, specifically braided ramps or full interchange reconstruction. And that level of detail was available because an interchange access report was developed for the environmental assessment. An interchange access report is not being developed for the environmental impact statement that was agreed to by the Federal Highway Administration. So we don't have that level of detail. We are in this NEPA document clearing the worst case impacts and documenting those based on a planning level limit of disturbance. So it's a conservative limit of disturbance to account for potential impacts at the interchange itself and along the corridor.
Excellent, thank you. Phil has a question. He asks, how will crossover traffic at Bowers Hill be handled?
Right, yeah, that's a good question. Again, would point to future development of an interchange access report, which would get into the specifics of vehicle movements within the interchange. That is not something that's part of this environmental study.
Thank you. And Edward has a question. Andrew, he asks, if the shoulder is being used as an alternate, then how will vehicles pull to the side?
Right. VDOT's recommended preferred alternative includes the addition of a one managed lane and the use of a part-time drivable shoulder. The operation and the timing of when a part-time drivable shoulder would be determined at a later date. And so I can't really speak to the specifics of when that lane would be in operation and how that would impact potential travel incident management.
Thank you. Andrew, our next question is from Steve, and he asks, can you please explain why managed lanes offer choice but free lanes do not? I do not understand why additional lanes were excluded from consideration. And Andrew, if we need to have somebody answer that question, I do believe I have somebody on the line.
Yeah, I can start. So, yeah, general purpose lanes were included as concepts that were considered, both the addition of one general purpose lane and then also the addition of two general purpose lanes. And then we're also considering the addition of managed lanes, right, with alternative C and alternative D. And the difference, managed lanes allow for the opportunity for carpool and for transit vehicles to move in a different set of lanes in the managed lanes and realize potential time savings. So that meets that need to provide additional travel choice.
Excellent, thank you. Andrew, our next question is there any part of the plan that will assist in redirecting our 8,500 truckers?
We do not have those specifics included in the NEPA document.
Excellent, thank you. I'm reviewing those that have joined online, those that have joined by phone. I don't see any hands raised at this time. We do have a next question here in the Q&A box. Will the part-time drivable shoulder be available at all times of the day for passing slow vehicles like buses?
Right, good question. Yeah, the operation of the part-time drivable shoulder, the hours at which that would be open are not known at this time and will not be determined in the NEPA study.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrew. And I believe that's the same answer for this next question. But the next question is, will any businesses on Military Highway be affected? For example, the convenience store and rifle range.
Right, so there are potential impacts to private property along the corridor. I want to invite you all to look at the online mapping tool available at vdotmeeting.com/Bowers Hill. It would allow you to enter your address and see where you are in relationship to the limits of disturbance for both of the alternatives, the two build alternatives that have been retained. And then you could certainly follow with me or send an email to the Bowers Hill VDOT email address with any specific questions.
Thank you. We've got that website there pulled up on the screen now. Andrew, our next question is from Lee. If circumstances change and option D better meets community needs, does VDOT anticipate additional construction after option C is completed?
Right, so this NEPA study that we're involved in now is only looking at those two alternatives and implementing a preferred alternative. So anything beyond that would be the subject of future studies or analyses.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrew. While we wait to collect more questions, we'd like to remind you that when you do submit your comments online, that you also take a moment to complete our demographic survey. It's both on the Bowers Hill Interchange website as well as the vdotmeeting.com/Bowers Hill site. This is a voluntary survey, but it provides very important data for our civil rights and project team members and helps us ensure that we are reaching all communities within our district for this and future projects. We have another question this evening. Andrew, it is, will the draft EIS include any analysis comparing the ability of adding a single managed lane only without the drivable shoulder to meet the purpose and need? I have not seen analysis demonstrating the specific need for the additional drivable shoulder lane, which seems likely to increase traffic and right-of-way impacts.
Sure, that's a good question. So the draft environmental impact statement will document the two build alternatives and the no build alternative. So it'll document the addition of one managed lane and the part-time drivable shoulder for alternative C, and then the two managed lanes, the addition of two managed lanes as part of alternative D. And so one point on the addition of that part-time drivable shoulder is consistency with local and regional plans, specifically the Hampton Roads Express lanes. To the south of the Bowers Hill Interchange and the I-664 corridor that's part of this study is the high-rise bridge project, I-64 Southside project. That's adding one managed lane and a part-time drivable shoulder, and will be part of the Hampton Roads Express lane. So consistency with local and regional plans is another reason why part-time drivable shoulder is part of alternative C, and another reason why it's VDOT's recommended preferred alternative.
Thank you, Andrew. Our next question is, with the current proposed design, what is projected and proposed years of service before additional lanes or improvements may be needed? I'm sorry, let me read this one more time. With the current proposed design, with the current proposed design, what is projected or the proposed years of service before the additional lanes or improvements may be needed based on traffic loads current and in the future?
Right, that's a good question. I'm going to ask if Marcel is available just to speak to the years of the analysis involved in the traffic analysis conducted to date.
Excellent. And Marcel, you may unmute yourself at this time.
I just did, and I trust you can hear me fine.
Yes, thank you.
So as was mentioned earlier, our analysis and work has assumed that we have an opening year or in-service year for these improvements between 2037 and 2045. For now, based on the information we have as far as land use forecast, population projections, and employment projections, and the horizon year for the current long-range transportation plan, we have assumed that the build year or the horizon year for these improvements will be 2045. Typically, when we consider these kinds of projects, we want to make sure that those improvements have a horizon of about 22 years beyond the opening year. But at this point, we do not have that information yet to accurately incorporate what we know about the area to fully do that analysis. And we expect that that will be updated and provided later as we get closer to construction of the project. And at that time, a reevaluation will be done to estimate the lifespan of the project, if you will, and when additional construction will be needed.
Thank you, Marcel. Andrew, our next question is, the concept drawings included a large number of left exits. Are left exits permitted for new construction?
So again, in the NEPA study, as part of this environmental impact statement, we're not going to get to the level of specifics that show where exits may occur and how those access points will be implemented.
Thank you. Our next question is, what appropriations are anticipated to fund this project? What can I, as a citizen and taxpayer, do to accelerate construction?
Certainly able to provide comments tonight to the Bowers Hill email address, online, in person tomorrow night. So certainly one way to provide your input. In terms of funding, the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission, HRTAC, would be the funder of a future construction project.
Thank you. And Angie, that's a great time to remind all the folks on the call that we do have the in-person public hearing tomorrow evening, Wednesday, April 27th, from 5 to 7 p.m. at the VDOT Hampton Roads District Office at 7511 Burbage Drive in Suffolk. For those that have not had an opportunity, on the screen now, you can sign up for newsletter updates at bowershillinterchange.com. We send those out monthly, and you will also receive study updates as they become available. And you see we have another question this evening, Andrew. How is VDOT assessing visual impacts for historic properties from alterations at interchanges as well as the full route itself?
Right, so that'll be documented in technical reports and as part of the draft environmental impact statement, which we anticipate being made public this fall. So there's a visual technical report that gets into how the two build alternatives would impact visual sight lines from adjacent properties in the corridor. Historic properties, cultural resources are considered as part of in the Section 106 process. So those resources will be analyzed too, and then any potential for impacts to those properties will be analyzed as well.
Thank you. And speaking of the route, Andrew, our next question is, which lane will be designated for truck drivers?
So the environmental impact statement that we're working on will not get to that level of detail with respect to how a future construction project will be implemented or how vehicles will move through the corridor.
Excellent. Also wanted to point out that all of the information that was shown on the video is also explained in direct project boards on the website at vdotmeeting.com/BowersHill. We have another question this evening. and that is, will the draft EIS explain what specific interchange improvements, TSM, TDM measures, and transit improvements were assessed for their ability to meet the purpose and need?
Yes. So the draft environmental impact statements, specifically Chapter 2, will discuss concepts considered, the concepts that were advanced, and the alternatives retained. So there will be discussion with respect to collector distributor lanes, transportation systems management, and travel demand management strategies, and transit only improvements. So all of those will be discussed, and their ability to meet or not meet purpose and need. And again, just a reminder on purpose and need, it's purpose and need of the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study is to reduce congestion, improve travel reliability, and provide additional travel choice.
Thank you, Andrew, and those are explained in the slides as well. We have another question. Can you please clarify the anticipated construction start date?
As part of the environmental impact statement, we do not get to that level of detail with respect to potential construction start dates. That would come after a NEPA decision. Like I said earlier, happy to repeat this since I know people are probably joining at different times. The Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization, their long-range transportation plan lists this project as opening to construction in a 2038 to 2045 timeframe.
Thank you. At this time, I do not see any hands raised on those that have joined us on the phone, but I'd like to give another minute for folks online and via phone to share your questions here in the Q&A box. As a reminder, we also encourage you to visit us online to complete the demographic survey. And should you have questions following this presentation, you're welcome to share questions with us directly. Submit your comments online through May 7th. For the complete study history, you can visit bowershillinterchange.com. What's on your screen here is just a snapshot, much more detail if you go online. And if you haven't already, we certainly encourage you to sign up for study updates online at bowershillinterchange.com. To stay in the loop with other VDOT projects, we also encourage you to visit VDOT Hampton Roads on Facebook, Twitter, and Nextdoor, as well as sign up to receive our weekly lane closures and press releases. I'd like to give another call for questions. Andrew, while we're wrapping up, if you could just explain to us what the next steps of this study are.
Sure, yeah. So the public comment period that we're in right now closes on May 7th. There is the in-person public hearing tomorrow night at the VDOT Hampton Roads District Office from 5 to 7 o'clock. Comments can also be submitted online at vdotmeeting.com/BowersHill, be submitted via email, by phone. So we have a number of options for you to use to provide comments on VDOT's recommended preferred alternative. So following the close of the public comment period, May 7th, we'll review all of those comments. Those comments will inform the Commonwealth Transportation Board's action to identify a preferred alternative. We anticipate that may occur this summer. And then the next step for public involvement would be around the release of the draft environmental impact statement. We anticipate the release of the draft environmental impact statement to be this fall. So that would be the next opportunity for a public comment period, public meeting like this, and public hearing. And then from there, draft environmental impact statement, the next step would be the Federal Highway releasing a final environmental impact statement and record of decision. And we anticipate that to occur in 2023.
Thank you, Andrew. While we work to wrap up tonight's virtual study public hearing, wanted to give everybody a chance for some last questions. Anybody wanted to submit them in the Q&A box or via phone, now is the time. And we'll have a 2-minute call here for last minute questions. We also encourage you that if you didn't want to share your comments or ask questions this evening, that you do that through the other methods that we mentioned. Again, you can take the survey online that will be open through May 7th, as well as sign up for the newsletter updates so you can be apprised of the next time that we do the public hearings for the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study. I wanted to give our phone participants a last chance to raise any hands this evening. Thank you so much. If we have no further questions at this time, we will conclude the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvements Study public hearing. Please visit us online to share your comments and submit questions through May 7th. This presentation will also be made available online. And I do see another question coming in. For those on the phone, please press *3 to ask a question. Yes, I see a telephone question ending in number 86. Area code 70386. You may ask your question. Telephone number ending in 86. You are unmuted and you can ask your question now. And I see one more comment coming in, but I just wanted to make sure that there are no other concerns on the telephone or in the Q&A box this evening. And Steve, I just wanted to make sure that I was able to answer your question. Just wanted to share with all the panelists and participants this evening that we have received several thank yous and several thank yous for the project team for sharing this information. Excellent. Thank you, Steve. And without any further ado, we would like to conclude the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study public hearing. Recommend that you contact us directly on the website, share your comments through May 7th, and we also hope to see you in person tomorrow evening. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening and drive safe.